The Politics podcast is brought to you, as always, by The Contender, the game of presidential debate. Man, we got these card caucuses going all over the country. Head on over there, thecontender.us. Buy the game that is the best of 2016. We guarantee it. As well as all of your folks here at my Patreon page. It's great. Man, we have 415 patrons. That means that we are only 5 away from our Nate Dogg milestone. That is 420. YOLO, blaze it. Hashtag legalize it. Thank y'all for supporting not only this program, but also my other One Mic show, which is the jury program. It is the best deal on the internet, and it has changed my life. Thank you guys so much. But enough of that. What do you say we go ahead and start this here show? Maybe the most sexual version of the Politics program ever.
Politics.
Oh, damn. Ted Cruz penis. Ted Cruz had sex with people. Is that news? I don't know. JK, I know it's news. Welcome to the hashtag Cruz sex scandal edition of the Politics program. Guys, I want to let y'all know something. I didn't realize how depressed I was about this election until this morning. I did not realize what a doldrums I was in until this morning. But when I woke up, man, you would have thought my name was first name Snow, last name White. I had birds flying in, bringing in my laundry. Not animated birds, not the birds I actually own, not Dr. Bird, not Cooper Bird, not Mila Bird, animated birds. I had a song in my heart and a skip in my step because what we have to discuss today, que linda, it is an old-fashioned sex scandal. Man, we were at such a weird place in this election where we had one gigantic major ripple in the pond, and that was Donald Trump. And then we just kind of had nothing else. You know, we had all these little Trumpy things of him saying something weird and then nothing happening. But then once the novelty of those wore off, man, it was just kind of depressing. It was two people that had a lead in their parties to differing degrees as we sort of looked at our watches and counted the days until we could get into the general election. But no. I'll tell you what. If this is what Good Friday is all about, a man of God getting crucified so other people can enjoy it, then I gotta tell you, this is a pretty sweet deal. If you are not aware of hashtag Cruz sex scandal, well then let me go ahead and fill you in now. Ted Cruz has a sex scandal on his hands. Ooh. Ted Cruz would like you to know nothing about this. Because when he makes a promise, he keeps it. Unless it's to his wife. Zing. Okay, all right. I'm gonna keep some of those jokes to a minimum. Let's go ahead and get down to the nitty-gritty. The National Enquirer reports in today's edition that Ted Cruz had not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 extramarital affairs. 5-time cheetah. Batting second, Teddy Cheetah. So who are these ladies? Where do we want to break this down? Okay, so let's go into the story, and then we'll get into the veracity of the reporting from the National Enquirer. They say 5 ladies. They don't name the ladies. They have one source on the record. It's Roger Stone, who is friendly with Donald Trump. We will get back to that in a second. They don't name the ladies, but they do pixelate out their faces as a way of saying, which journalistically is hilariously weaselly, but they're the National Enquirer. They're a tabloid. They don't have the same kind of journalistic onus that they put upon themselves as, let's say, a New York Times would be. But internet sleuths break down who a lot of these people are because they have publicly available photos that match what the National Enquirer printed out, all pixelated like. Who's on that list? We'll go from most interesting to least interesting. Or sorry, the opposite. Take it back down, flip it, and reverse it. Least interesting. 3 of them have been identified. The least interesting is somebody who is right now a spokesperson for Ted Cruz. She's a conservative operative. She's written books. She's in the scene. She's close to Cruz. She was on CNN today talking about exactly this. So what did she say? Well, she got a little angry. Why? Was it because the anchor questioned her about it? Nah. In fact, the anchor got mad about it. It's because a Trump mouthpiece was also on that segment. So normally the way this happens is everybody goes to a little studio, little closet somewhere in Secaucus, New Jersey, and they're talking via an earpiece to the people, the talking head there on CNN. And they're hearing, they're not seeing, they're just looking into a camera and talking to voices in their head. So let's go ahead and go to this clip from Mediaite. This is what went down today on CNN.
Adriana, are you ready for Trump to move on from this feud?
Oh, absolutely. I think we should move on. Where we should move to is the National Enquirer story that has reported that Ted Cruz has allegedly had affairs with at least 5 mistresses, including you've been named, Amanda.
I'm sorry, I don't think that's moving on at all, Adriana.
No, well, I'd like to know, if we're going to call Donald Trump's character into question, I would like Ted Cruz to issue a statement whether or not the National Enquirer story is true, that he has had affairs with many women, including you were named, Amanda. Will you denounce this story, or will you confirm it?
All right, let me step in really quick. Amanda, I will give you a second to, let me just be very clear. It will come as no surprise to our viewers. CNN has no reporting on what you're talking about coming from the National Enquirer. Amanda, go ahead.
I mean, what's out there is tabloid trash. If someone wants to comment on it, they can talk to my lawyer. It is categorically false.
All right. Few things for the audio listeners that I just want to get across. This is a masterclass. A masterclass in face reading. In fact, there is a face, man. We got to go back and find this face because this face is amazing. This face right here. This is the anchor. There's a point in which she realizes what the hell is going on. And this face right now in this top left corner, if you are only listening to this, you need to go to youtube.com/JustinRobertYoung. This face right here, cut, print, LOL, bitch, what? That's what that face is. All one word. Lol, bitch, what? What spelled W-U-T? That is exactly what that face is. And then meanwhile, this lady's face, the Trump spokeswoman's face, is just like, oh yeah, I'm going there. Oh yeah. Oh no. I'm going all the way there. Man, I got my passport stamp. We are going there. 9 E's. 2 R's and an Enye in the middle. That's how hard we are going there. It is serious out here because things are getting a little dirty. So that's the least interesting. That blew up. Middle interesting is a lady for whom used to be the chief campaign strategist for Carly Fiorina. Ooh. Carly Fiorina, who just endorsed Ted Cruz. Ooh. Carly Fiorina, who just got a cash injection to cover her campaign debts from a Ted Cruz super PAC. Ew. Now, a lot of people want to make that into that this was some sort of payoff, a pay-for-play thing. Carla Fiorina found out about the screwing around, and next thing you know, wanted a little hush money. I highly doubt that. I think this was just a regular old, I need you on the campaign trail talking on my behalf. Here's some money to cover your campaign expenses. That happens all the time. But here is where it gets the most interesting. Because the final lady that is on pixelated out from the National Enquirer's 2-page spread, the centerfold, is Katrina Pearson. Katrina Pearson used to work for Ted Cruz. Obvs. Katrina Pearson is from the Texas, specifically Dallas area. Well, I mean, that's not interesting. But what's Katrina doing now? How's Katrina drawing a paycheck right now? Well, I'll tell you where. She is currently getting paid as the national spokesperson for Donald J. Trump. The J stands for, you kidding me? Yeah. Not only the national spokeswoman for Donald J. Trump is rumored by the National Enquirer to be sleeping with Ted Cruz, or have slept with Ted Cruz during the point where he was married to his wife, Heidi Cruz. Now, the National Enquirer goes on to play a little bit of dirty pool in listing out all the different things that that they've reported about Ted Cruz. They also tack on to the end there the fact that, and this is something that's been known, it's out there in the public record, that Heidi Cruz, his wife, had a bit of an incident. She was out there in Austin. She was disoriented. She was listed as a hazard to herself, wandering around drunk AF by a highway. Obviously, it was a bad night for Heidi. So what are we to take from this? Well, I'll tell you what Ted Cruz took from it. Ted Cruz took from this that there is a calculated attempt by Donald Trump to sink him. He casts aspersions on the Donald. The Donald is close to American media, which runs the National Enquirer that used to be based out of Boca Raton. Donald Trump is a Palm Beach County guy now here at the Mar-a-Lago. Meanwhile, they moved up to New York 2 years ago, and that's where Donald Trump is. Reasonable to assume that they move in the same circles. Let's go ahead and see what Ted Cruz had to say about all this.
Published a story. It is a story that quoted one source on the record, Roger Stone, Donald Trump's chief political advisor. Let me be clear, this National Enquirer story is garbage. It is complete and utter lies. It is a tabloid smear. And it is a smear that has come from Donald Trump and his henchmen. It is attacking my family. And what is striking is Donald's henchman, Roger Stone.
See, now right there, that is a strong defense. You lean on the fact that the National Enquirer has a bad reputation. You make a categorical and unflinching denial, and you pin the fact that this is out there on two surefire villains for him, the person he's running against, and the media. Both red meat for conservatives. So to say Donald Trump has done this thanks to his allies in the media, that is textbook, man. Ted Cruz could not have handled it better. Let's go ahead and hear the rest.
Had for months been foreshadowing that this attack was coming. It's not surprising that Donald Trump's tweet occurs the day before the attack comes out. And I would note that Mr. Stone is a man who has 50 years of dirty tricks behind him. He's a man for whom a term was coined for copulating with a rodent. Well, let me be clear. Donald Trump may be a rat, but I have no desire to copulate with him.
You got any gum? What now? Ted, listen, man, again, very good. It was a good, hard denial, right? And then this Roger Stone, let's just go ahead and hear that back just one more time.
The rodent. Well, let me be clear. Donald Trump may be a rat, but I have no desire to copulate with him.
Well, thank God. I mean, so here's what you need to know about this. People are saying, oh, it sounds like Anthony Weiner. Here is what Ted Cruz does, and this is partly legal. He says that the report is garbage. He doesn't categorically come out and say that he never slept with those women and wag his finger in the camera. He puts it all on the dicey reputation of the National Enquirer. And believe you me, the National Enquirer has a well-deserved dicey reputation. They run with a lot of stuff that is barely attributable. They run on zero or one source stories a lot. Anything that they can throw on the front page to sell the tabloid, that's what they want to do. And you can hide behind that. Unless your name is John Edwards. Because now do me a favor. Go ahead and be my Sherman. I'll be your Mr. Peabody. We're going to climb on in the way, way back machine and head our ass down to 2008. Because in 2008, the National Enquirer was hot on another sex scandal. That was John Edwards. I said that John Edwards, the silky smooth senator from North Carolina, was cheating on his wife. What's more, his wife with cancer. What's more, when he cheated on his wife who had cancer, he got the woman pregnant. Now, the National Enquirer banged on this drum for a while, and it was totally ignored, completely ignored by the mainstream media. But a funny thing happened on the way to the forum, and as is chronicled in the book Game Change, man, all right, so the Justin Robert Young Politics pick of the week. If you have not read the book Game Change, go ahead and do yourself a favor and go ahead and read it. It's all about the 2008 election. Great insights into Hillary Clinton, great insights into Barack Obama, great insights into Sarah Palin and John McCain, everybody else in that race. But by far, to me, the most interesting part of that book is the story of how John Edwards got a lady pregnant on the campaign trail. And boy, was this lady whack-a-doodle-doo. Also, the fact that Edwards' wife, who was dying of cancer, was also a bit of a handful. So if you're Ted Cruz, there might be a delicate situation here. Because with power couples for whom both are high achievers, very often the traditional understanding of monogamy is something that might need to be finessed. This is chronicled, or at least dramatized in House of Cards, right? It is rumored that the Clintons have a similar idea of just do what you want sexually. Just keep it out of the press and out of my face so I don't have to deal with it. Now, maybe that's the case. Maybe there's a situation like that. Obviously, they have a little bit of some issues in their marriage. What's going to be interesting is this. Here is the most interesting way that we could see this unfold. Because again, Donald Trump's national spokesperson is one of these ladies. And so far, she has denied it, as have all the others. Donald Trump, by the way, has denied that he had anything to do with this leaking out. But I don't know how he did this, right? Because he wrote a Facebook post about it. And yet you could see his Cheshire his Cheshire cat grin behind the text. I didn't know how he was even able to do that, but apparently that's a new feature that they're rolling out there at Facebook. But imagine this. This is my House of Cards crazy scenario. And this will all depend on whether or not this story has legs. Because what is unlike 2008, when John Edwards was caught in a sex scandal that was being driven forward by the National Enquirer, is twofold. One's a little bit more tinfoil hatty than the other, but I believe that they are both important. Number one, Ted Cruz is a Republican and not a Democrat. The press tends to go harder on Republicans than Democrats. The press I am painting in a very wide brush, but I will narrow it down to the big press, 24/7 cable news channels, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, major metropolitans, stuff like that. Politico. Tend to go harder on Republicans than they do Democrats. Man, it ain't my problem. It's just how the world is. It's fine. But here might be the more important element of it. Now there's a back door to get to this story. And that back door is called social media. Now, 2008, social media existed, but it didn't exist like it did now. This National Enquirer story came out, and it was the top trending topic on Twitter within minutes. Which means that if you are CNN, if you are the New York Times, if you are a major outlet that is looking to cover this, you have the excuse to write about it because it is a trending topic on Twitter. That is something that did not used to be able to happen. If you reported on it, you were either climbing up a tree that might be poisoned because you are building on reporting done by the National Enquirer, right? Or you don't do it at all. Now you have the third way. We need to examine what the people are very obviously talking about. Now you can go to the Cruz campaign. You can go to all these women and say, hey, look, this is out there and people believe that this is happening. You need to comment on this and we need to report on this to either substantiate their interest or clear your name. That is something that did not exist in 2008 and has only gotten more and more interesting as we go on because, Mitt Romney and Barack Obama weren't sticking their wangs where they shouldn't have been. Finally, we're back to an election with reckless wieners. I love reckless wieners, man. These are the best. They're just like bumper cars all over their districts and the District of Columbia itself. Now, the other two on this list are apparently a school teacher in Austin and a hooker. I don't really have a whole lot of connections to hookers, but I do know several several girls, elementary school age girls in Austin. And at this point, I'm just really, really, really hoping that one of Brian Brushwood's daughters is being taught by or has been taught by a lady that has had sex with Ted Cruz. That is a sentence I did not expect to say in my natural lifetime. But amidst all of this Cruz sex scandaling, let's turn our gaze to the Democratic side, where it is so goddamn boring that everybody lost their mind because Bernie Sanders had a bird show up to his rally. Let's go now live to footage from Bernie Sanders reacting to the fact that a bird landed on his stage.
This little bird doesn't know it. Oh,
If you are watching, or sorry, not watching live, a bird landed on Bernie Sanders' stage. He made a comment about it because the crowd kept cheering, and then the bird flew up from the stage and landed on his lectern, and the crowd lost their mind. Let's go ahead. By the way, listen to this pop. This pop is absolutely insane. This is Hulk Hogan in Toronto levels of crazy. Here we go. This is the a crowd. By the way, it's in Portland. Put a bird on it. They did. Bernie put a bird on it. This is in Portland. Listen to this Portland crowd when the fact that a bird lands on a goddamn lectern.
oh my.
You have got to see this crowd. You have got to see this crowd. One more time. Here we go. This is the crowd in Portland. And look how excited they all are. This is before when the bird is just on the stage. Just ear to ear smiles. One more time for the bird pop.
Know it. Oh my.
What is happening? What is happening? Anyway, so that's how boring the Democratic side is that people are yelling and screaming because a bird was on stage. I mean, again, we have 5 women in play. We have a credible idea that maybe Donald Trump will force his national spokesperson to reach all up in that Rolodex, type out an email that says, yeah, I banged Ted Cruz. Hit me up at this number and I will give you all the deets. Because here's the other idea. Here's my house of cards scenario. Now let's say that Donald Trump says, all right, hey, listen, you banged Ted Cruz. That's fine. Let's say he didn't plant this, right? Which, by the way, if he planted this, like, how cold-blooded do you have to be to plant a story where you are saying, where you are ruining the career of one of your employees to plant that story, right? Now, on the other hand, if you didn't plant the story, you can go to your spokesperson and say, hey, listen, I'm with you. I would have held this from me too. You got your privacy, handle your business. It's hard being a successful woman in politics. So guess what? You have a job with me, not only through this campaign, but when I get into the White House, you are going to be my national press secretary. I believe in you. There's just one little thing. I need you to admit that this thing happened. Because, right, you know, it happened. It happened. It happened. You slept with Ted Cruz. That's fine. We've all made mistakes. I'm Donald Trump. I've got enough to fill the Titanic. And then enough to also make the iceberg that sinks the Titanic. So don't worry about it, man. We all strike out here and again. But when you are talking about the fact that you did sleep with Ted Cruz, if you were to just hint the slightest hint that maybe he did things improperly, maybe he told you nasty things about his wife, maybe he was not a gentle lover, well, you ain't got to say anything on the record. You can say a lady must have her dignity, but if you just give the barest hint of impropriety, there is literally, that is checkmate for Ted Cruz. Because he can't acknowledge it. That is a real life, when did you stop beating your wife? He can't acknowledge it, or else he substantiates it. And he can't not acknowledge it, or else he is thought to have done something really nasty while he was sleeping with this woman who is currently working for the enemy. It is in the bag. Ted Cruz is done like dinner. Over. OVA. The Blueprint 2, homie, on the way. That is checkmate when it comes to Ted Cruz. But that's my House of Cards scenario. That happens. And y'all need to come back to the PX3 podcast. And all I want to see in that chat room is, jury, you called it. Speaking of calling it, what do you say we get on over to our most popular segment of this podcast? I'm going to go ahead and call my friends. Yeah. I'm going to call my friends. I'm going to say, hey, listen, man, it's a Friday night. We had to do this podcast late. What do you say we just head on out? Nah, man, not to Duffy's, not to Bennigan's, not to Chili's. I know it's March Madness, but let's get it live tonight. Let's head on down to the pole dance. Yeah, this time we're going Old Spice swagger. This poll is from Emerson, conducted from March 20th to the 22nd, with 439 likely voters. It is for the Wisconsin primary. The margin of error is 4.6%. In third place, he's pulling up the rear, but god damn it if he can't pop it, it's John Kasich. In second place, he might not be winning the Cheesehead State. It's Donald J. Trump with 35%. But topping the poll, well within the margin of error, is a man that not only can't keep it in his pants, he can't keep his hands off them voters neither. Let's go ahead and get a big round of applause. Pull your dollar bills out, because he's here for your thrills and chills. Ted Cruz. Putting the D in Ted, says Chimera, and hell yeah, if that ain't the truth. A +1 spread for Ted Cruz. You know, this is tight. We are like into delegate counting territory when it comes to when it comes to this race here. You know, there was a little bit of redistricting in Louisiana, so Ted Cruz got a few more. Ted Cruz won Utah. This is going to be a squeaker on whether or not Trump will get to 1237. I don't think that Ted Cruz is going to get to 1237. But if Ted Cruz wants to really keep this momentum going, he's got to double down on the media. He's got to, what I would do if I were Ted Cruz is take all this attention and just say, hey, listen, we live in a new political reality where people don't care about exactly what you did. So you need to score political points off it. And red meat for the conservative base is always the route to get us. So just say, they're scared of me. They are scared of me. Donald Trump's scared of me. The media's scared of me. And that's why they're teaming up. And they're trying to get old Ted. Just because I had never mind. Because I had a delicious meal with my wife is what I meant to say. Let's go ahead and get into your mail. It is justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Put politics in the subject line. Brad writes, big fan, I'll keep this short, but I'm curious your thoughts on the current frontrunners. Most likely the nominations for both parties will affect the congressional elections. I feel like I hear the discussion a lot from other sources and would be interested in your take. This is the down ballot argument that you will hear a lot. Effectively, the idea is the best way to get people to vote for congressional candidates is to have a presidential candidate running. So if you have an electrified base during the presidential election, that they are going to go out and also vote for their congressional candidates on the party. The general consensus is that Donald Trump would be very, very, very bad down ballot. This is for a few reasons. Number one, because he's very divisive amongst the Republican Party, but probably more accurately, because he doesn't have the connections that everybody else does. Now, when people talk about the establishment, it's not just a bunch of people who are obsessed with controlling where the Republican Party or Democratic Party goes. The establishment are the bookkeepers. The establishment are the people who have the Rolodex who say, oh, you should run, you shouldn't run, and here's why. So Donald Trump is just not going to have that institutional knowledge to say, hey, I need to go here and do a campaign event with this person running because they are going to benefit from me and I will benefit from them. He just doesn't have that knowledge base. So you're not going to have, like you did with Mitt Romney, like you had with George W. Bush, like you had with John McCain, people out there on the stump plugging for their congressional representatives of their party. Donald Trump don't give a rat's ass. Like, he's running for the Republican Party because he prefers Fox News to MSNBC as best as I could tell. So he doesn't give a rat's ass if anybody down ballot gets elected. Should he? Yeah, but he should do a lot of things. What a rascal. As for Hillary, I think it'll be fine. I mean, like, there will be an excited Democratic base to vote against Donald Trump, and she'll be good. I think the Republicans are the ones that really have to worry down ballot if and when Trump is your nominee. Ben writes, I think you mischaracterized the election a bit, at least on the Democratic side. You identified a large group of unsatisfied Democratic voters who feel disenfranchised. Yeah, those are college students. Of course they don't like Hillary. They are not being robbed. They are just being voted down. The Democratic base isn't rejecting Hillary. She's winning the African-American vote and the female vote, and that's all you need. I feel like you are lumping the Democratic primary in with the radioactive poop show that is the GOP primary, and that's really not fair. It's a contentious primary to be sure. I wouldn't say that it's all that out of the ordinary. You said up front that you don't like either frontrunner. I don't either. It seemed like you were projecting your dislike onto the electorate. I wish you had just gone on that rant you had teased. I mean, come on. You can't say you wrote a rant and not let loose. Well, I can and I did. I didn't want to rant because I think what a lot of people enjoy about this show is the fact that it stays tactical and it doesn't get too opinionated. Obviously, my opinion is always going to move where I think the tactical element should be, but it doesn't need to get into I like this candidate, I hate this candidate. Because in general, I don't like or hate them all that much more, you know? So let's go ahead and get into what he said. Did I mischaracterize the election? I don't think so. You know, there's a few things. Number one, this is night and day. You know, the Democratic situation and the Republican situation are two different things. What is happening in the Republican Party might be generational. You know, you don't see this a whole lot. What you're seeing in the Democratic Party is something that you often see, but you rarely see this blatant. When I said that Bernie fans, all those bird watchers out there in Portland, that they are robbed or they are being robbed. I mean that it was historic how many endorsements Hillary got before any campaigning was really even going on. It was historic that a healthy person for whom covets the office of president and is the sitting vice president didn't run. It was curious that Elizabeth Warren didn't run. I believe this is because the fix was in that this is Hillary's year, and that's all that's going to be said about it. Hillary inherited Barack Obama's team. Biden is not close with the Democratic elite. Elizabeth Warren isn't really either. And so there we go. We're off to the races. All Hillary has to do is beat Bernie, and that has proven a far tougher time than I think she would have expected. That's what I mean by being robbed. Now, are they disenfranchised? Who knows? You know, they don't like Hillary. Bernie voters don't like Hillary, but, you know, they probably don't like Trump a lot more. What you have to worry about is whether or not that they'll vote for Trump, but whether or not they'll just feel sad about it. Whether or not there'll be just a little seed of disdain. Because, you know, on the GOP side, there was a lot of years of, hey, we're excited for the Tea Party. We're excited that there's a big insurgent element of our party. It's turning out the vote. It's having us win congressional elections. But ultimately, that seed of disdain grew into a gigantic Trump, which is now something that is become a bit of an eyesore for many in the grand old party. Scott wrote, I had a very vivid dream 2 nights ago where Donald Trump announced at the convention that Marco Rubio would be his running mate. But before they got off stage, Rubio had a heart attack and died. The dream then jumped forward a few days, and Trump announced Bernie freaking Sanders as his running mate, followed by a smash cut to them beating Hillary by 35 points with voter turnout above 60% nationwide. I am now headed to therapy because this whole thing freaked me out a bit. I would actually be very curious to see what a Bernie Trump ticket would poll like. That would be very, very, very interesting. Marin in Australia writes, Marin in Australia writes, of course, you talk about it on the podcast and made a fantastic, hilarious game about it, but the things that irritate me most about politics are the childish, stubborn imbeciles in Congress who refuse to act like adults and do their job in order to maintain face on behalf of the party. That's the easiest thing to pinpoint, but there is so much out there that's freaking terrible. Marin then went on to give me a great breakdown of U.S. versus Australian politics. I agree with everything. Gregory writes, here's something to consider to the great folks that listen to the podcast that won't vote on Election Day because their candidate isn't on the ballot. How about leaving the ballot blank? I mean, Gregory has a great story about how he did it, and now he is a targeted voter, and he is in the crosshairs of campaigns, and maybe his opinion is being paid attention to more. But I don't know. I mean, kind of feels like not voting is the Uber for leaving a ballot blank. Just easier. Just stay home. Get high, get drunk. Just stay home. It's fine. If you don't want to vote, it is totally fine. Don't let anybody convince you that not voting is bad. Not voting is rad. That's what I'm going to make shirts, man. Not voting. It's rad. Chris in Michigan writes, I would like to hear your take on this article. It's an interesting theory, to be honest. Would be wild if it happened. And it's an article about Paul Ryan getting to pick the president because nobody can get to 538. These are 538 electoral college votes in the general election. That would be a pretty insane time. We would need effectively a third-party candidate that would siphon votes from both sides. And at that point, Paul Ryan would pick the president. I think it's highly unlikely. There's a reason why it hasn't happened in forever. But hell, in this election, I ain't counting nothing out. It would be great if Paul Ryan picked himself, though. Just called his own number. Said, well, The nation's in tatters. Our entire concept of democracy has been turned on its ear. You know who's here to fix it? Hold on. Let me see if I can get a hold of him. Oh, yeah, I can. It's me. And then his theme music plays. Self-high five. Blair writes, don't count your Bernies until the barbecue sauce arrives. Just occurs to me that you said Trump would never make it this far, and now he has. So now that you're so sure that Bernie won't make it any further, maybe just waiting to see what happens during this weird political period, though I love all the speculation. Well, Blair, if you listen to the show, this is what I said. I thought Trump would falter. He was polling very well. I thought that he was an anomaly that would falter. I was dead loud wrong. Bernie is unfortunately on an unflattering trajectory. And I don't assume that he is going to pull up from it because there is not a lot of evidence to point in that direction. So that's what I'm saying. Nate writes, I am a 28-year-old evangelical, but I do not consider myself an evangelical voter. I try to think rationally when voting rather than listening to religious leaders about who should be elected. I'm bothered when the media lumps evangelicals together as a voting bloc, but it's probably just shorthand for older white conservative voters. I've linked you to an article about my viewpoint. It's from a Christian devotional site, but this post is about politics, not trying to trick you into converting. I hope you get a chance to read it and maybe talk about it on the podcast. So I did. I clicked on that link, and it was to a Christian devotional site, but it effectively split the electorate, the evangelical electorate. And this is what I've read in a bunch of different things, which is that effectively the evangelical, and the reason why people lump together the evangelical vote is that traditionally it does hew closer together than apart. This has been a defining year for the evangelical electorate, and I do believe that it is on, among other lines, age lines. He points out older conservative voters. There is this idea that evangelical voters are split on whether or not they want somebody that walks their path and somebody that will protect that path. So Donald Trump voters are people who say, yeah, no, listen, man, I ain't going to convince myself that this man is a evangelical. And this man knows Too Fast, Too Furious from 2 Corinthians. But I like the way he talks about the defense of religious liberty. Which, by the way, there was a great thing on the 538 podcast this week about the pivot that Republican and conservative talking points have done, that you don't hear a lot about gay marriage anymore. You do hear a lot about religious liberty, which I think is great. That's a great term for it. Semi-problematic when you want to focus specifically on Muslims when it comes to national security issues. That's a bit of a two-step that you got to do, but otherwise, a great way to rephrase that. So you have those people who want to have a defense, a gate. Doesn't matter who it is. You just need to talk the right talk about how you are going to defend the evangelical soul of this great nation. Then there's the other hand that says, you want to know what? Like, I actually want to see myself in the candidate. Is that so wrong? I want to know that me and this candidate share the same values, that we understand the same way of looking at the world. And when those people look at Donald Trump, yipes. Yipes, stripes. And so you see more support for either Ted Cruz or other people, right? I'm not saying that all of them are Ted Cruz supporters. I'm just saying let's use that binary because it's in front of us. But I think this is the most fascinating year for the evangelical vote I have ever seen. It's been the most fascinating year for a lot of votes that I've ever seen, and we are just getting started. If you would like to email us, go ahead on in. Email us, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. You can buy The Contender at thecontender.us. Music, of course, provided by Valesco and Trap Killers.
Politics, 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 politics.
You can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. Remember, folks, some people talk about politics. Some people talk about politics, but this show right here, rate, review, and subscribe it. This is the only one that talks about politics. I will see y'all next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.